Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly settle down. The distinguished chief guest speaker for this evening has already arrived. We'll commence the program shortly, maybe another few minutes. Before that, I give some time for the people still enjoying light refreshments outside, and I'll take maybe a few more minutes to remind you what's happening in MMA next few days so that you don't miss them, especially viewers watching the program live also, and so that you don't miss any of our good events what we organize exclusively for you. The next event what is happening is on 10th of June, AA for everyone. This is happening at our Kanjipuram chapter. You all know MMA has got 12 chapters, very active chapters located at different locations. On 11th, we have Krishnamurti Foundation. We do some work on just to remind all our leaders what are the principles of J. Krishnamurti in terms of leadership and how they are very, very relevant in today's world. So we are doing this at a dialogue series at Krishnamurti Foundation India at Vasanta Vihar. It's there in Chennai. It's a beautiful place. You must come and visit. You feel really, really very nice when you come and visit this place where Mr. Krishnamurti lived actually. On 13th, again, we have a Golden Age series at Tanish Kannanagar by Parasuram on one of the subjects is management and life lessons from movies actually. So he's an expert on that. He'll be showing number of movies, slides and to see how. Then on 15th of June at MMA, we have MMA CPCL Endowment Lecture where public sector leadership in nation building from legacy to future readiness. We got some outstanding speaker, Dr. Ananthanarayanan, Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, Kamakodi, who is Director of IT Madras, Shivatana Pillai is founder of BrahMos. Then we also have trying to get Mr. Sani, is a chairman of Indian Oil Corporation, and Shankar, CMD of CPCL. So it's a nice event. All you should know about what is public sector means and how they are very good in nation building is happening on the thing. On 22nd, again we have a launch and discussion on the book, which is very, very relevant today. That is India Out of Work, Rethinking India's Growth Story. The way we are going we don't change our own thing. I think most of the people, especially middle class and below, will be out of work actually. And one is aging, there are also delimitation, fertility and no work. I think we are all heading for a very serious issue. So it's always better before we become rich, we should not become very poor by getting into the old age people. I think recently you must have read, Kerala government has started a new department, new ministry for looking after old age people. Andhra is giving incentive for, creating more children. Things are working totally different than what we expected from 1991. So we are having a excellent discussion. We are trying to get Santosh Mehrotra, professor who is the authority on this subject, is going to be there, along with some outstanding economists going to be talking to us on this. Then on 24th, actually, we are Read and Grow. Then most important event is our MMA AGM and the award function. This time is 70th AGM of MMA. That is a platinum jubilee celebration from AGM, and we have some outstanding program lined up for our members and everybody. And Mr. Narendran, who is a managing director of Tata Sons, is going Tata Steel, going to be the chief guest, and Thomas Ross is the MD of BMW delivering the keynote address. We have lined up some outstanding event. We are going to launch the part 2 of volume of the coffee table book, part 3 volume of the MMA publications on turning the management lessons from the legends. Then we're also having special issue of business mandate. We are going to do a lot of things, and I'm quite sure it's going to be evening filled with a lot of nostalgic memory of MMA and how over 70 years MMA traveled from just 12 members then to now strong 8,000 plus members, and we have over 14 years consistently winning the awards and many more. So please do block your calendar. We'll be sending you the annual report and notice soon, and also join us a gala dinner thereafter in the evening. And I request you to 10th of July is a Friday, so please block your diary. Coming to today's event is event which most of you are looking forward, building high-tech performance teams and lessons from military leadership and large-scale operations. And anything military, at least I'll walk miles to listen to people. And today we have an officer who is an outstanding achiever in his area, and he's going to be sharing his leadership traits and lessons with us. And to chair this session, our own past president of MMA, Raju, Venkatraman, not new to me, and we worked very closely. He's the one person who contributed significantly for making this building, and he was the president then, and today you've seen how good building we have made. And his thoughts, his futuristic thing, and really helped me putting a lot of things in place when he was the president, actually. He's the one person I always look up to him with reverence whenever I need something in MMA's growth and MMA's obstacles where I get stuck, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome Mr. Raju Venkatraman, the chairman of the session, and the General Ananthanarayanan, AVSM, SM, retired Indian Army, to take the place on the dais. May I request you to take your place on the dais, please. Come, sir. Yeah, big round of applause to the distinguished speakers for this evening. And the format of the program, as usual, I am going to request the President MMA to deliver the formal welcome address. Thereafter, the Chair, Raju, will set the context into the subject, and then the General will speak for 30 to 35, 40 minutes. And then the questions, as usual, we have a Mentimeter. They'll be on the screen. You can send all your questions scanning the Mentimeter. All the viewers watching the program live, you can also scan and send the questions. And as per the MMA's practice, we don't hand over the microphone to the people who are attending here in person, because people are coming to listen to the General, not to the people who are getting the microphone, because that is the reason we have made a policy, Mentimeter. Now, I'm going to now request Lakshmi Narayan, President of Medall Management Association, to deliver the formal welcome address. Can I have his AV, please? Yeah. Because yes, my team says your president doesn't need an introduction, so everybody knows. Let me tell you, I have the privilege of introducing Lakshmi. Is a managing director of Sundaram Home Finance Limited, and is a cost accountant specialist in MBA. And he's one person who is very, very meticulous. We put in a lot of systems and process in place MMA, because being a finance background is a great supporter of MMA. We have done a number of initiatives on this dynamic leadership, and now I request Lakshmi to please present a formal welcome address.
Thank you. Thank you, Group Captain. Good evening, all of you. It's indeed my privilege to deliver the formal welcome address at this exclusive event on the theme Lessons from Military Leadership and Large-Scale Operations, organized with the support of CAS. It's a great pleasure to welcome our distinguished speaker this evening, Lieutenant General P.N. Ananthanarayanan, AVSM, SM, a highly decorated veteran in the Indian Army, who's graciously agreed to address us on this important and very highly relevant theme. I also extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Raju Venkatraman, past President of MMA and founder, MD and CEO of Medall Healthcare Private Limited, for agreeing to chair this session and facilitate this insightful lecture by the General. I also take this opportunity to welcome all the members of MMA and guests, as well as participants from other organizations who have joined us in person here and online. For the benefit of our guests and invitees, let me briefly mention that MMA, established in 1956, is the largest management association in the country, with over 8,000 members and 12 chapters across Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. MMA has also been awarded the Best Management Association in the country for 15 consecutive years, including the latest year, 24-25. The corporate world today can derive profound lessons from military's approach to leadership, strategy, and execution. Military organizations succeed in highly uncertain and often hostile environments because they combine a clear mission with disciplined planning, unity of effort, and an unwavering commitment to its objectives. High-performing military teams are built through rigorous training, shared values, trust, accountability, and a culture that places collective success above individual achievement. Today's business environments presents similar challenges. Volatility, disruption, technological change, and intense competition demand agility, resilience, and the ability to execute with unrelenting focus. Military leadership reminds us that success is not merely about superior resources. It's about aligning people behind a common purpose, empowering leaders at every level, sustaining operational discipline under pressure. The 1971 military campaign, which led to the creation of Bangladesh, remains a remarkable example of strategic planning and integrated execution. Its success was the result of not only a battlefield capability, but also meticulous preparation, clear political objectives, joint operations across Army, Navy, and Air Force, and effective coordination with multiple stakeholders. The lesson for the corporate world is clear. Transformational outcomes require cross-functional collaboration, organizational alignment, and synchronized execution. Large enterprises often struggle with when departments pursue isolated goals rather than a unified mission. The 1971 campaign demonstrates how diverse teams working towards a common purpose with clearly defined roles and mutual trust can achieve extraordinary results. More broadly, this lesson applies to every professional military operation across the world, whether in tactical counterinsurgency, high-risk rescue missions, peacekeeping efforts, aerial displays, or social initiatives such as Sadbhavana mission in Kashmir. In many ways, modern management practices draw deeply from military's management principles. We are therefore very fortunate this evening to have with us an accomplished war veteran with such a distinguished career who will share his insights and experiences from the armed forces along with lessons that corporate world can adopt and adapt. I once again thank my colleagues from the managing committee, the members of MMA, our distinguished invitees from MMA and partner organizations, and all the viewers who have joined us here and online. Wishing you all a very inspiring evening, and thank you.
Thank you, Lax, for during the formal welcome address. Before I proceed further, I request all the people who are down here to please switch off your mobile phone or put it in silent mode because to build high performance team, we need to perform very well. I think it really disturbs, especially where you get attracted to the tone of your telephone is so good, no? We don't want that to stop. That is also not good for us, actually. Please request you to put your phone in silent mode. Before we proceed further, I request Mr. Raju to deliver the formal setting the context for this evening. He's chairing the session. I'm also going to introduce both the chair and the speaker through an AV order made by MMA. Can I have the AV, please?
Mr. Raju Venkatraman, past president of MMA and founder and MD of Medall Healthcare Private Limited, is a distinguished entrepreneur and alumnus of IIT Madras and IIT Ahmedabad. A pioneer in digital imaging, BPO and healthcare diagnostics, Mr. Raju Venkatraman has built impactful businesses across India and abroad. He is a recipient of several honors, including the IIT Madras Distinguished Alumnus Award. Passionate about mentoring young entrepreneurs, Mr. Raju Venkatraman continues to inspire through his leadership and service. Lieutenant General E.N. Ananthanarayanan, AVSM, SAE, retired, is a highly decorated Indian Army veteran with nearly 4 decades of distinguished service. General Ananthanarayanan has held key command and leadership roles across strategic, operational and training environments, including as commandant of the Infantry School. Recognized for his expertise in organizational strategy, team building and high-pressure leadership, he has also contributed to indigenization and military collaboration. A recipient of the AVSM and Sena Medal, General Ananthanarayanan continues to inspire through his insights on leadership and excellence.
I think a warm round of applause to our distinguished leaders for this evening. And it's now my privilege to request Mr. Raju Venkatraman to deliver the setting the context as a chairman, opening remarks, and also take the session forward. Over to you, Raju.
Good evening to all. Mr. Lakshmi Narayan, President of MMA, our distinguished chief guest this evening, General Ananthanarayanan, his wife Aparna, and my most favorite person in the planet, Group Captain Vijay Kumar. The reason I say this is I've given a lot of time to CII, TAI, so many organizations. The precision with which this organization runs is a tribute to the leadership, the team, So let's give a big round of applause. High performance team. As an entrepreneur, I have built several companies, scaled them up to 25,000, 30,000 people. Building high performance teams has been one of the biggest challenges. I have admired two organizations in a broad leadership style, if you look at it. The armed forces, the militaries, and also sometimes these days I'm learning a lot from all the NGOs which have 1 lakh, 2 lakh volunteers and the kind of social work they are beginning to do. So there is a lot for the corporate world like us to learn. How do they motivate the people? How do they build that spirit? You know, we all talk about KRAs, key result areas, roles and responsibility of individuals. And in doing so, many a times, we lose the purpose. I always say goal clarity is more important than role clarity. And here is an organization which does complex military operations. They are a result of meticulous planning that goes into it, rigorous preparation. You know, you don't expect a war, but you have to be paranoid all the time, and you have to be ready for an attack or ready to attack or defend. And disciplined execution that comes with it has always kept me in awe. These great commanders like him, generals like him, they have very clearly defined mission. They analyze the environment. They assess the risks for their people who are out in the front line. They allocate resource effectively. And the objectives are translated to actionable tasks with responsibilities. See, I always used to see the command and control style of military. Orders come. But at the same time, there is so much of empowerment in the front line. The decentralization that occurs at the execution level, the freedom that they have, the camaraderie that they have, those are things that I have admired, and hopefully we will get to see a lot of it today and learn as to how we can take it. Mr. Lakshminarayan talked about our 1971 military operation or campaign. That was one of the finest examples. And I'm hoping that today, I'm sure General will cover at breadth the tough terrains they work with, how they keep the people motivated. While I was building, most of the first two businesses I built was all international. And people were sitting in nice office places, enjoying 8 to 5 work or 8-hour shifts and so forth. But the last one that I did, Medall, was purely an Indian business. We went into approximately 70 districts in India, 5 states. Challenges are different. Managing people remotely, making sure they have the clarity, they have the integrity, they have the honesty, they have the teamwork. And I now constantly go back. I have now, thanks to General Anant and other military friends, I didn't have them. I started my career in US with Ross Perot's company called EDS. Military precision in everything they did. And guess what? It was a 20,000 people company, and we didn't have an HR department. Every manager was trained to take care of the people. We had to go through training, rigorous training, how to communicate, how to do performance appraisal, how to set goals, how to manage the P&L. So hopefully today, barring the P&L part, we will get a glimpse into what we can learn from General Anant. I have known General Anant for about 2 years, fascinating human being, and has accomplished a lot. We haven't done justice in the introduction to the level of stuff that he has done. So please Google him and you will find a lot more data on that. For corporate executives who are here and for the students who are here, these are great learning opportunities. Strategic clarity, alignment. We all struggle in aligning even our leadership teams to the common goals. Here you have a battalion of 1,000 people aligned with one purpose, one goal, just to defend. And Siachen Glacier is about a 76 kilometer long, 2,600 square kilometer area at temperatures I don't even remember. I think it is minus 70 degrees. So I don't want to steal the thunder from General Anand. We really are looking forward and we hope that we can take some of these lessons and practice it in our daily lives and make sure that we continue to build Indian. We are all nation builders. We are all of us have done maybe small things, but we have contributed to building India. I know where it was in the 60s and where we are today. And while we are building, we cannot forget to defend the nation. And I want to salute you, sir, and all the armed forces men for the sacrifices you all have made to protect us and allow us to continue to grow. With that said, thank you and look forward to your session. Thank you. I'm going to sit here or sit there itself.
Pointer irukka?
Oh, sir.
Pointer. இது பாயிண்டர் இது தானே?
இது பாயிண்ட்.
A very good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure and a privilege for me to be standing here, to be speaking on a subject which is very close to my heart. I express my deep sense of gratitude to the President and the Secretary for having me here. And just to put in context as to how this whole thing happened, it was just a small snippet of the Siachen, of something to do with Siachen, which was there on the WhatsApp. And Raju sent it over to me, and so I just mentioned, oh yes, I have served there. And that's when we got into a conversation, and he said, you must tell us as to what are the lessons you learned there. Well, I was there in the glacier in 2001. So it's almost 25 years back. But then the memories are so fresh. And all I had to do was just jiggle a little bit and go down the memory lane. And that's how I made my presentation. I've taken the liberty of just altering the title to Winning Without Excuses. Because in war, there's no place for a runner-up. You have to win. And there are no excuses. Well, with that as the backdrop, when you look at this title behind, it it appears to be more like a sort of what you find when you enter any corporate office outside in the corridor. But when you're standing at a place where excuses don't survive, at an altitude of 18,000 plus feet, where the temperatures go down to minus, say, 50 degrees and below, where the oxygen in your lungs is less than half of what you have here at present sitting in this auditorium. Winning without excuses isn't a slogan anymore. It's the bare minimum requirement for survival. This is a place where even breathing takes an effort. And with that, when you say breathing, it also amounts to living. A place where helicopters find it difficult to fly, machines don't work, weapons jam, and the batteries fail. Anything and everything can happen. But then, you need to survive. And this is a place where the nature sets the rules. And the human resolve is the only currency that matters. But then, this presentation is not about Siachen. It's not about the glacier. This is not even about war. It's about the various, it's about the leadership under very, very trying conditions. It's about teams that continue to perform when systems collapse. It's about preparation so deep that courage becomes instinct. In my nearly 4 decades of service in the Indian Army, I've learned that in this VUCA world, this is an acronym which you're all familiar with. It's not a theoretical business school framework. It is a stark reality. Today we are going to talk about what it takes to build teams that do not just survive adversity, but scale through it. We will talk about the core leadership lessons, mission clarity, building trust, discipline in action, empowering teams, and executing relentlessly. When in my last tenure as the Commandant of Infantry School, one of the young officers, when we were, this topic was about, glaciated warfare, he asked me, who's the biggest enemy in the glacier? Only one word I had for that, complacency. Because once, discipline drops even for a moment, the glacier punishes you instantly. Before I proceed further, I would just like to give you a very brief history about this whole, what the Siachen Glacier is all about, so that you understand when I speak about the lessons being learned, you are able to fathom the type of conditions or the type of, terrain in which we were operating. Just a small snippet of the glacier.
The old spine reach. This is one of the most hostile regions on Earth. Snaking through these towering peaks is a 78-kilometer long Siachen Glacier. It's a frontier like no other in the world. Guarding it demands constant innovation. The Siachen Glacier is at 12,000 feet above sea level, but this is just carabiners, winches, gloves. The men are ready to take on the world's highest battlefield. Over the next few months, these men will face more than one enemy. Extreme altitude, frigid temperature, oxygen-starved atmosphere, avalanches, snowstorms, and enemy fire. Atop a lonely crag, on a windy mountain outpost, an Indian soldier stands guard, so that his countrymen may flourish in peace.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, thank you. Now, I'll briefly just, tell you about what this thing is all about. You look at this landscape. Okay, this is the Soltoro Ridge in the Karakoram Range. It's often called the third pole. In this terrain, your physical body is constantly under siege. The mind plays tricks on you. The sheer isolation can break even the strongest of men. Early in my career as a second in command of one of the finest units of the Indian Army, I realized a fundamental truth about human performance. You cannot conquer Siachen. You have to just endure it. And that's true, I feel, of all mountains. Even if you have the finest soldiers under your command, to endure it, an organization has to undergo transformation. Why I say so? Because this type of terrain is very unique. The glaciated terrain is something which is which is only one of its kind. And that's the reason why it's called the highest battlefield. It's called a very unique battlefield. And this is one place where some of us get only one opportunity to go and serve. We talk about performance teams in the corporate world. But on the glacier, transformation means moving from prepared minds to victory for the nation. It requires a shift where personal comfort always takes a backseat to the mission. Why? Because out there, if you lose your footing, or if your teammate loses his focus even for a single second, the glacier doesn't give you a second chance. High performance here is not about individual brilliance, it's about an unbroken chain of brotherhood. Now, to truly understand the leadership lessons, you must understand the geography. Look at the map. There's a 70-kilometer long ridge of ice. The width varies from 4 to 6 kilometers, and it lies between the Soltoro Ridge in the west and the Karakoram Range in the east. When you just go back to history, the Karachi Agreement of 1949, and thereafter you had the Shimla Agreement of 1972. And after the Karachi Agreement, something called as the ceasefire line came about, basically in the borders of Punjab and J&K. And after the Shimla Agreement, it was called the line of control. But both of them stopped here in this NJ 9842. Now, thereafter, it said that the boundary or the border between both the countries will be thence northwards. Why? Because nobody ever believed that anybody can go and fight in that area or even go and live in that area. And as far as the Pakistan was concerned, they felt that this NJ 9842 should link up with the Karakoram Pass, that is, go northeast. Whereas our perception is it should follow the watershed, that is along the Soltoro Ridge. So that laid the basis for this type of conflict happening in this particular place. But geography also dictates strategy. This piece of ice, it's also a wedge. If you look at it, this is a wedge between the area illegally ceded to China by Pakistan in 1963, called the Shakhgam Valley, and the Gilgit-Baltistan, which is in POJK. So the importance of this high ground I need not be stressed further. I'm sure you understand. So, and in always military terms, it's, anybody who holds the high ground, especially in mountains, he commands the area around it. And that's the reason we have to hold this high ground at any cost. Okay, a little bit on the historical perspective. As I mentioned earlier, see what happened was in the 70s, Pakistan started giving permission for a number of mountaineering expeditions to be done on the glacier. If you look at it on the Gilgit-Baltistan side, they are very close to the passes. It was only in 78 that the Indian Army launched an expedition there, which was by the late Colonel Narendra Kumar, also called as Bull Kumar. And somehow in 1983, intelligence sources revealed that Pakistan was planning to occupy this area. April 13, 1984, that's when we preempted them. We went and occupied all the passes, primarily Siala and Bilafondla, the main passes leading onto the glacier. Please remember, as far as they are concerned, they are much, much closer to these passes than what we are. So there was no option but for a battalion of 4 Kumar to be heli-dropped there, and thereafter this battle for the passes has been going on, and we've stood our ground. In 1987, I'm sure all of you would be aware about the operation that took place wherein this post called Bana, which was one only post which was on the ridge line which was held by Pakistan, was captured by us, by Subedar Bana Singh, for which he was awarded a Paramveer Chakra. And that's the reason this post, otherwise called a scared post, is now called the Bana post. And now we hold the Soltoro Ridge. They've tried umpteen number of times to dislodge us from there, but they have failed. Yes, it meant decades of sacrifice, but then it had to be done. If you are interested, there is this book on Siachen conflict, Looking Beyond Himalayas, by Major General Arun Lal. And also there's another book called Siachen Conflict Without an End by Lieutenant General Raghavan. It's very interesting. It gives you the entire, the chronology of events and the reason as to why we need to occupy this piece of, somebody says a frozen battlefield, somebody says, because they say nothing grows here. Because Siachen, actually, if you look at it, what does it mean? Sia means wild rose. Chen means abundance of it. But then, frankly, let me tell you, I didn't see a single rose. Okay. Now, let's break down the transformation, what I spoke about, how it actually happens. We have identified 6 distinct pillars, as you can see on the slide, that act as a force multiplier when the environment is hostile. The first, you must establish trust before turbulence hits you. You don't build a team when the crisis arrives. You build it in the quiet moments of preparation. Second, discipline is what creates agility. It sounds like a paradox, but we'll explore how structure actually enables speed a little later. Third, we build leaders, not dependencies. If a team relies solely on one commander, that team is fragile. Fourth, we look at multipliers at scale. Fifth, we understand that logistics wins more battles than brilliance. And finally, culture is the ultimate force multiplier. When you have these 6 pillars, you just don't face challenges, you outlast them. Now, let's look at the twin challenge framework. Basically, human psychology, equipment, isolation, logistics, tactics. Let's talk about who are the actual adversaries in the glacier? Yes, that is the enemy across the AGPL. But your primary relentless enemy is nature itself. Psychologically, the human body is not meant to exist at this height, at 20,000 and beyond. There are this high altitude diseases like HACO, basically pulmonary edema or cerebral edema, where water in the lungs or water in your brains, which can prove to be fatal. Your appetite drops, you lose a lot of weight. Sleep is an absolute, it's very difficult to sleep there, and it's more of a luxury than anything else. Your equipment betrays you, your weapons, the lubricants freeze. There are so many challenges that comes up. The batteries that generally last for 8 hours, they don't even last for 20 minutes there. And, the metal becomes so brittle that sometimes it just breaks. Then comes the psychological toll, which is most difficult thing to overcome. That's isolation. You're confined to either a fiberglass hut or an ice cave with the same 4 or 5 people for weeks on end. Far away from any sort of habitation, far away in the white wilderness, surrounded by nothing but just by a blinding white landscape. This, the strategic takeaway for a corporate leader here is stark. If you look at it, they just don't face the enemy, they outlast nature. In business, your competition is one thing, but the market environment, the regulatory shifts, the economic overturns, that is the nature you need to outlast. I wanted to speak about training, and this was just a small snippet of the Siachen Battle School, where the training is done prior to your induction into the glacier. Now, how do you prepare a human being to survive and fight in an environment that's actually, trying to kill him? And that's the answer. Every single soldier, regardless of rank, whether a raw recruit or a senior commander, he must go through this rigorous training before even stepping onto the glacier. We train them in icecraft and glacier management. They learn how to survive. They learn habitat management, avalanche awareness, and even rescue. They learn how to walk, how to cross crevices, how to walk roped up in a crevices-ridden terrain. They are trained in. They learn to survive in the ice cave if they are cut off, and how to survive if you get into a blizzard. And why ice caves? Because that is where, whenever firing takes place, you have to move into an ice cave. That's the only way you can survive. And when I say firing, it is the artillery shells that land. The philosophy of the battle school is simple. It just says, training saves lives. See how apt it is. We do not send people to the front lines hoping they will adapt. We condition them so thoroughly that adaptation, it becomes a sort of an instinct. In your organizations, when you launch a new project or probably enter a volatile market, what is your battle school? Are you training your people to survive the worst case scenario? Or are you just giving them a theoretical briefing? This brings us to the core pivot of our discussion today. Preparation. Preparation is the foundation, but preparation without leadership is just static. We understand the terrain, we know the history, we accept the challenges, and we train to overcome them. But now, we must lead. How do you lead when the stakes are this high? We do it by anchoring ourselves to 5 timeless leadership lessons: purpose over comfort, trust before turbulence, structure that enables speed, multipliers at scale, and sustainability beats heroics. Now let's examine these through the lens of the battlefield. The modern corporate world, is because I've had a little exposure in my last 2 years. They're obsessed with this word of motivation. A lot of consultants are hired, engagement surveys done, design beautiful workspaces, cafeterias, entertainment, and what have you, all to keep people motivated. But motivation is actually, if you look at it, is an emotional state. It fluctuates. When a soldier is cold, sleep deprived, and shivering at 3 a.m., motivation evaporates. But what survives? What stands? It's the purpose, the why. So on the glacier, we don't talk about motivation, we talk about mission before motivation. Every soldier here has absolute mission clarity. He knows what we are trying to achieve. He's got total role clarity. He understands what is expected of him. He knows what is mutual dependence. He knows that he can depend on someone and somebody else is dependent on him. And the leadership lesson as to how it's so important to be relevant. When a soldier is standing guard with his buddy is sleeping, he knows that he can't fall off, he just cannot go off to sleep, because the life of his buddy depends on him. That is the type of, the mutual dependence that exists. And that is something which is ingrained, which is not taught. Same way, when volatility hits your business, I feel you should not try to motivate your team just, by giving them, perks and all that. Anchoring them to a clear, unshakable purpose is what ensures commitment and survives when motivation fails. This is just a picture of, if you look at it, there's a place called Sonam where there's an FGH which has been covered by snow. To enter it, you just have this small sort of a small hole. Now, it's the job of the soldier, whoever is on duty, to ensure that he keeps shoveling out the snow, lest the people inside don't get caught inside. And he does it relentlessly till such time he is relieved. And when I was mentioning about ice caves, this is where you need to take shelter, and this is what you create, or for you to be safe from enemy shelling. Now, how do you build trust before crisis arrives? Modern organizations, quite often they confuse flexibility with, one second. Sorry. There's a beautiful, profound truth etched into the operational reality of the glacier. Nobody enters the glacier because they trust the weather. They enter it because they trust each other. You cannot assemble trust during a crisis. It must exist in the marrow of your organization. Especially in high-stakes environment, trust is built on a very, very specific equation. Shared understanding multiplied by predictable character, multiplied by consistent actions is what gets you trust. Let me give you a practical example. When a patrol is moving across and across on the glacier, they are all roped up. They are all linked to a single rope. Why? Because moment any one of them goes into a crevice, the person front or behind him just digs in his heel and holds on, ensuring that that person doesn't go in further deep. Irrespective, that is the type of understanding they have within the team. And straight away, that's how you ensure that you come back as a team. It's all for one, one for all. Same way, if I may ask you, in your corporate teams, do your people trust each other's execution when the markets get turbulent? Or are they waiting to see which way the wind blows before supporting their teammates? Well, that is something which you need to ask yourself. We'll highlight this a little further when I'm talking of trust. You see, casualty evacuation is such an important thing because every soldier knows that his leadership will ensure that he comes out from there safe. Now, yes, over a period of extended time, some of them may develop this so-called high altitude diseases, which are sometimes very fatal. But he knows very well that his mates, that his leadership will ensure that he gets out from there. If you look at it, it's not that easy. Even moving a person who's sick, moving him from the place where he's there up to the helipad itself is a humongous effort. And thereafter, you see the ecosystem that is existing. The helicopters take off from the base, and I'll just show you a small clip to show you as to how the helicopters also take off from the base, and despite the inclement weather, and you all know that in glacier the weather can turn foul anytime, but they have that type of determination. They're risking their own lives. They come to save one life. And I must tell you also about this, that, we have something called as a hypo chamber. When somebody gets, water in the lungs or whatever, he's put into this chamber basically to reduce the pressure. The only sort of remedy for such type of disease is to moving a person down to a lower altitude. Now, this hypo chamber is, when a person is put into that, he cannot sleep. He has to be kept awake. So there is a sort of a communication system, and somebody has to keep speaking to him. There have been days when when a western disturbance strikes for 7 days, 14 days, the weather is absolutely bad. No choppers can fly. No movement can take place. But how do you keep him alive? That is where the type of camaraderie comes into play. That's where leadership comes into play, wherein you keep speaking to him day in and day out and ensure he doesn't sleep. But then, yes, there have been instances when, for whatever reason, this person, he didn't survive. But finally, when we had to, when the mortal remains had to be sent down, it took us at least 3 more days for the weather to clear and for the choppers to come in. But then, when the mortal remains were taken to the helipad is such a small, it's just a 10 by 10 sort of a small place. And they realized that they couldn't put the, the cheetah is a very small one, so they couldn't, and after a period of time, the body also stiffens up. So they've not been able to put the body inside. So what happens? Here comes this youngster, a young soldier. What he does, and this is all done in, I would say in split seconds. He just takes a sort of a picket, he just breaks the legs and puts the body inside. He does it out of love. He wants the mortal remains to go back, and he doesn't want to leave anyone behind. That is the essence of trust. Now, you see, modern organizations often confuse flexibility with freedom and structures with, rigidity. They think that to be agile, you must throw away rules. Military operations teach us, exactly the opposite. Structure actually enables speed. This is what we call the paradox of discipline. The more disciplined the preparation, the more adaptive the execution. The SOPs, what we have a lot of SOPs in the army. They're not designed. They're not designed to restrict your mind. They're designed to reduce friction and hesitation. When a crisis hits, you don't want your team debating basic processes. You want those processes to be so deeply ingrained that it becomes sort of, a muscle memory. It frees up the intellectual capacity to handle the unexpected variable. And that's where mental mobility comes into play in a big way. Look at the images here. The operational briefing in an ice tent. Every map marker, every communication protocol, every backup frequency is standardized. Because the structure is clear, our junior leaders have the freedom to act decisively. Discipline is not a constraint. It's a force multiplier that creates true tactical freedom. The next, yesterday's leaders, they had all the answers. They sat at the top of a pyramid, giving commands and controlling information. But in today's world, in this fast-moving, complex environment, that model is actually a recipe for disaster. If decisions stop when the leader stops, leadership has already failed. Large-scale operations teach us a brutal truth. We cannot afford to scale leaders, we must scale capability. And leadership is no longer about command and control. It's about enabling, empowering, and multiplying. When a small team is deployed in a forward observation post, cut off from the main base due to weather for days and also due to terrain, the young Havaldar or the JCO on the spot, he is the commander. He cannot wait for somebody from elsewhere trying to give him orders, or he cannot seek orders from them or try to. He has to take a decision, and that that is why it is said that initiative moves downwards, accountability moves upwards, and confidence moves sideways. And especially in such an environment, everybody is a leader, because you don't know at what time he will be called upon to do what he has to do. Oh, yes. Sustainability. When I said sustainability beats heroics, this is what I meant. We love stories of heroism. We celebrate the individual who stays up for 3 nights straight to salvage a broken project. But a sustainable organization cannot be built on individual heroics. Excellence is rarely defeated by competition. It's usually defeated by exhaustion. Look at this logistic pipeline on the slide. It starts with moving supplies, by road from the planes to the base camp, lifting them via helicopters, dropping them at forward dropping zones, carrying them manually over the last mile, and finally sustaining life at the highest frontier. Every single link in the chain must work seamlessly day after day, month after month. And when you look at a successful operation, just don't look at the soldier standing there at the post. Look at the maintenance crew. Look at the logistic support system. Look at all those people who are enabled him to survive in that type of terrain and in that area. As a leader, when your team faces a massive challenge, don't just ask, can we achieve this? Ask the more critical question, can we sustain this? Take care of your logistical pipeline. I mean to say your operational workflows, your resource allocation, your people's mental well-being, because sustainability will always outlast a short burst of brilliance. And now coming down to the last lesson, culture wins when leaders are absent. Okay. This is one of the most important pillars. Leadership is temporary. Commanders change, in your case, CEOs change, your bosses change, managers move on. But the culture stays, the culture wins. How do you know that what your team's culture is? It's dictated by 3 simple things: what gets tolerated, what gets rewarded, and what gets protected. Look at these images. You see these soldiers. they're celebrating a festival together, sharing a meal in an igloo, standing before a small temple built in the snow in these extreme conditions. We create an environment where standards become an identity. We don't need a supervisor to check if a soldier, has cleaned his weapon or checks his oxygen level. His pride, his sense of ownership, and the institutional culture ensures that. When your leaders are absent, what happens to your organization? If the compliance and quality drop the moment the management looks away, you don't have a governance problem, you have a culture problem. High performance teams create a culture that acts as a compass, keeping everyone aligned even when they are completely alone. And one more aspect I would just like to speak on is faith. Faith is a big mover. We all understand that. And how well it is, it's exemplified there. Just short of the snout, there's a small, it's not exactly a temple, it's a place which we called as the OP Baba. No religion, no God, nothing. He's just an OP Baba, is just a sort of a figure of a man. Now, somebody sometime felt that it's this OP Baba who takes care of you. Something divine which holds on to you, which helps you survive, which never lets you down. So, over a period of time, everybody has begun to accept it. So, before you enter the glacier, the report is given to OP Baba, telling that, listen, I'm moving ahead with my team. Please ensure that we all come back safe and sound. And when you come back after your tenure, you again give a report to him telling that, thank you so much. To a layman, it sounds ridiculous. But then, that's faith. And if it helps, why not? So now, let me just now conclude. I'll just summarize the 6 pillars, which I had spoken of. In stable times, systems produce results, and any standard management framework can keep a company moving forward when the market is predictable. In difficult times, individual leadership can pull through a temporary crisis. But in truly VUCA times, when the ground beneath your feet is shifting like a moving glacier, you need an integrated ecosystem. You need purpose to create direction, trust to create resilience, discipline to create agility, leadership to create scales, sustainment to create endurance, and culture to create victory. This is how military formations function under the greatest pressures known to humanity. And that's exactly how, I feel that we all need to function. We endure, we overcome, we win. And yes, the armed forces will never fail the nation. And what is the ultimate recognition? When we get back from there, what is a soldier looking for? He's looking for the Siachen medal. This is the ultimate recognition. He just takes it as any other task which he has done. He takes it that, yes, I was entrusted with this task, I've accomplished it, and I'm back. And he wears this medal with a lot of pride. Nothing else he wants. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, General. That was I learnt a lot. I couldn't take notes, so I do want the 6 principles you did. It was excellent. The first question that has come, there are no names, but that's okay. I can't see the names. We are aware of how motivated Indian soldiers are. Do you also have not so motivated people too, like private sector? If yes, how do you handle them?
Very interesting question. You see, what I feel is that the biggest plus what we have in the Indian Armed Forces is our training and training methodology. As I said, it is something beyond motivation. To a large extent, in the army, we don't even talk of motivation because it's already ingrained, inbuilt. It's that purpose, what I was talking of, the why, which actually, which is there in every soldier. We have a beautiful system. We have a beautiful system of mentorship. We have leadership at all levels, at the sub-unit level, sub-sub-unit level, sub-unit level, unit level. And each and every one ensures that in some form or the other, he motivates his command. And what do you actually mean by motivation? It's basically getting them to do what they have to do. So, I don't see that, at least frankly speaking, in my almost 4 decades of service, I've never had to face this problem.
Wow. Anyway, I'll ask the second question. It is a common perception that at times you must walk over others in corporate world to survive. How military is different from this? V.K. Swami from MMA Chennai.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll be very frank with you. We are humans. Everybody wants to do well. Everybody wants to reach the top. Yes, the armed forces, we have a very steep pyramid. The base is broad, but as you keep going up, it becomes too steep. But let me tell you one thing, we have a beautiful system. A system where, your subordinates, you right from the beginning, it's so important for you to earn the respect of your subordinates. And anybody, he'll not do anything to lose that respect, because that means much more than the rank. There may be an odd case, which may appear. Again, if you look at it, this, when you say that walking over somebody, it's more of a perception. It's the way you look at it. But the system is very, very fair, and you are being watched. But let me tell you, the ultimate success is not the rank what you wear, it's the respect what you get.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Yeah. In the armed forces, teams operate with absolute clarity of mission. How can corporate leaders create the same level of mission clarity in organizations where goals often shift frequently? Great question.
Oh, it's a lovely question. And I can only think of one sentence. Tolerance to ambiguity. You must build in that tolerance for ambiguity. Because yes, in this fast-moving world, in this very fluid world, a lot of things can happen. And that is where I've been mentioning that you need to train, you need to train for all this. You need to build in that tolerance for ambiguity in your people. And once you do that, they will be able to take on any situation.
Wow, that's a great answer. So you don't need to be always the guy who is constantly removing the fog. Condition people that fog do come once in a while. So great answer. Mr. Ananthanarayanan, that's addressed to you. Military teams are known for discipline and accountability. How can businesses build accountability without creating fear or excessive rigidity? Wow.
Oh, I can basically talk of, as I said, having spent so much time in uniform, and I've been out of uniform just for 2.5 years. Again, this is where leadership comes into play. See, today there are various pulls and pressures on a business. Everything is not hunky-dory. But it's so important to create that sense of belonging in a team. Belonging in every person, to make every person a part of the business, make him feel, him or her, make them feel relevant. So, more often than not, it is this, people are scared of being irrelevant. So probably if you can remove that, I don't think you should be able to tackle this.
Before I go to the next question, one question for you from my EDS days working. Do you have an HR team managing the morale of your battalion?
No.
Simple
answer
The
is no.
leader takes accountability and he or she cannot blame, but the training system is so powerful that it sends people with the right attitude and abilities to the different fronts, right? And many a times, no offense meant to all the HR people, the LMD, the talent acquisition, employee engagement, all that happens in large organizations that I have built. The responsibility of knowing your people lies with the leader, cannot be delegated to HR. Is that a fair statement? And how well are you trained? You said sub-unit, sub-sub-unit, unit, and everywhere you learn whether 8 people, 16 people, 128 people, then 1,000 people. That hierarchy is maintained?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think, is there any other? How does a commander build trust quickly among diverse teams, especially when people come from different regions, cultures, skills and levels of experience?
Oh, again, I have one word for this, and that's the uniform. Uniform is something which, for us, it becomes a part of us. It becomes our skin. It becomes our being. And today, the beauty of it is our training. And again, see, what is important, even when you train, you need to have clarity of purpose. For what are you doing it? Over a period of time, when we come, rightly said, from diverse backgrounds, but the training is same for everybody. Everybody is brought to the same level. And there is absolutely, we are very impartial in our dealings. Everybody is treated alike. Religion has no place. Caste has no place. And the religion of your men is your religion as far as officers are concerned.
What lessons from commanding large formations can be applied to managing large corporate teams spread across multiple locations around the world or functions?
No, there was what we refer to in the army as directive style of command. Now, what's directive style of command? It's by ensuring that whoever are there, wherever they are there, they're aware of what they are supposed to do and what they are supposed to achieve. Give them the task. Don't tell them how to do it. The problem with us is we not only want to give them the task, we want to tell them how to do it also. Because again, it is primarily because lack of trust. Yes, mistakes will be made, but then that's how the organization will grow. That's how you train them to come up. So you should be willing to accept certain amount of shortfall, certain amount of mistakes, especially if it is an act of omission, or it's just more by default. So this directive style of command or directive style of leadership is, I guess, what is something which probably, and a number of businesses do it also, and they are successful.
I have one question before I go to the last question. Most of the men or the soldiers, different ranks, they don't have a normal family life for almost 10 months in a year. They don't have to go home, worry about managing the day-to-day issues, getting the baggage with them of things that happens at home. Is that one reason you think you are able to build high-performance teams?
Let me tell you, our families are our biggest strength. In lighter vein, absence makes the heart grow fonder. But in the other world, its absence makes the heart wonder. See, because the thing is that the purpose is so deep that everybody knows that the families who are left behind are being taken care of. We have a beautiful ecosystem to take care of them. Yes, no way it can substitute your physical presence there, but the next best thing is there for them. They know that for any problem, anything that happens, they have somebody to reach up to. I'll give you a small example. We keep moving from one place to the other. After every 2 years, you're posted from one place to the other. But when you reach that new place, you don't feel lost. People welcome you because that is the type of bonding that is there. That is that type of, the sense of belonging is to the organization, not to any individual component. And that is what keeps us together, and that is what our strength. And our families have done exceptionally well. Today, communications have improved so much. Right from the field area, anybody and everybody are able to speak to their families. Yes, it's got its other added problems, but then it's being handled very well.
Thank you. The next question goes straight to it. What role does communication play in mission success, and what communication practices from military can business leaders adopt immediately?
Communication is so important. Firstly, clarity of orders. It's so important for you to be absolutely clear when you're giving orders, and it has to be something which is achievable. You have to be convinced that yes, that it is achievable. And they always say that no plan survives contact. Any mission, once contact is established, a lot of things will happen. Yes, contingency planning is something we always do. Before we're going for a mission, you look at all the possibilities and probabilities that can happen. where all things can go wrong. So you always, so for that you find a solution for each one of them. But then invariably there are problems which will arise for which you have not catered for. That is where mental mobility comes into play. And with mental mobility, you should be able to communicate. So communication is of great essence. Even communication can just be with your body language. It boosts up the morale. Your body language of a commander says, it just peps up the spirit of everybody around there, especially when you've not achieved what you have to. So communication is such an important function of leadership. And that is something which we stress a lot on.
Thank you, General Anand. With that,
Thank you, General. What a fascinating evening, because most of you must be listening. I was part of many of the actions, what's happened there. I've seen, I know at least Air Force pilot general agree with me. They will never love to leave behind anybody, because everybody want to get to the thing and get back to the base. And it's always very, very tough situation. I've seen up to Leh. That itself is such a tough life. Situation is unbelievable. And ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to General for sharing us. And I can tell you, yes, maybe a standing ovation will be very good for the armed forces, and we are all happily staying here because somebody is dying for us and guarding the nation. Thank you so much. A lovely evening. Now, as usual, we'll give memento on behalf of MMA. It's a publication of MMA. So from lovely stories, what is spoken in MMA, we compiled and put it along with embedded video. I present one. Very lovely. I will post it there, stealing for quite some time.